Hey everyone, thanks for checking out my 2018 3DS retrospective. If you haven't seen my retrospectives before, I go through my collection, the stuff I bought that year for every console, and just like to point out the stuff that I really dig and learn about some stuff that I should have picked up that I'm going to go back and try and play. So if you're new to my retrospectives, please subscribe for upcoming stuff. Go back and check out my previous 3DS retrospectives I've done every year. I've done a bunch of other consoles, so check that stuff out. And yeah, let's just get going. So releases are really dying down, but they're not quite as dead as we thought they were going to be a couple years ago. There's nothing else coming out for the rest of this year, so we can dive right in. 2018 kicked off with the release of Kirby Battle Royale. This was a departure for the side-scrolling platformer series. Battle Royale is instead a top-down arena fighter where 4 players can each control a different Kirby color with unique abilities. There are 13 abilities in the base game, with 2 more added through free DLC. Aside from Kirby, you could also unlock Waddle Dee, Meta Knight, and King Dedede to play as. The game has a single-player story mode called the Cake Royale, as well as 9 different multiplayer modes, including co-op, competitive, and team-based modes. Aside from the battle mode, the other modes include completing different objectives, like collecting the most of an item or fighting enemies. Which brings us to the first game I've got on the table, the remake of Radiant Historia. Radiant Historia Perfect Chronology was an update of Atlus's original DS time travel RPG. It features redrawn art, more streamlined gameplay, and a new side story scenario with a new playable character. This was a big deal as the original game didn't have a huge print run and was highly sought after soon after release. The game takes place in a fantasy world in the middle of a war. The player controls the character Stock, who has been entrusted with the White Chronicle, a book that allows him to travel through multiple timelines and try to find the ones that have the best outcome for the war. The party travels to timelines and then changes things there to unlock other timelines to travel through. The game features a turn-based battle system that uses 3x3 grids for enemy and party placement, and the player's battle party includes 3 characters. Overall, it's a great RPG worth checking out. Next up, a fun game, if not a bit handholdy, that is Detective Pikachu. This is an adventure game where a new character, Tim, arrives in Rhyme City to search for his father, who's disappeared while investigating why random Pokémon are going on rampages. There he meets Detective Pikachu, who's worked with Tim's father, but has since lost his memory. Tim is the only one who can understand him, and so the two team up. In each chapter, you move through the areas talking to people and Pokémon to gather evidence, which is used to solve simple logic puzzles. The story and characters are fun, but its puzzles are simple, and the game's hand-holding can be frustrating, and it really slows things down. The game launched alongside a big Detective Pikachu amiibo, which works with the game. And another RPG after that, The Alliance Alive. This is a spiritual follow-up to last year's Legend of Legacy. The Alliance Alive takes the Saga style of JRPGs and makes it more accessible. If you don't know, Saga games are JRPGs like Saga Frontier, which feature a more open world and more random stat and skill increases instead of a standard leveling system. Usually I avoid them, but I couldn't for this one because the scenario was done by the writer of Suikoden 1, 2, and 3, who hasn't done much, but those are some of the best stories from that era, so I really needed to see what they could do here. The game takes place in a fantasy world that was long ago invaded by demons who've sealed it into different zones, and now rule over the humans and beast races. As members of the Resistance, your party fights back against the demons. The game has 9 playable characters, and the battle system allows for a 5-character party that are arranged on formations on a 3x5 grid. The first half of it is pretty linear, but it does get to a more saga-like open world later on. And just showing that, when a system starts to die down, RPGs are the real notable things that come out, so we got the remake of Shin Megami Tensei Strange Journey. Strange Journey Redux is a remake of the original game on the DS, which is a dungeon-crawling RPG that's a neat mix of traditional Shin Megami Tensei gameplay and Etrian Odyssey-like game design. The story involves a group who enters a void that's been expanding over the Antarctic, and while exploring it, they end up attacked by demons. As the main character, though, you manage to tame demons and can use them to fight back in true SMT style. This Redux version includes new story content, additional endings, and a new dungeon to explore. Following that, we got Sushi Striker, The Way of Sushido. This is a new action puzzle game by Nintendo where you take on opponents that cause damage by matching sushi along conveyor belts. When a match is made, the opponents take damage. Both sides have 3 conveyor belts, and there's a global conveyor belt in the middle that either side can pull from. Aside from the multiplayer, the game features a pretty involved story mode, which is a weird Japanese take on Footloose, where the main character, a male or female Musashi, discovers how great sushi is, but has been banned by the Empire after the Sushi Wars, so Musashi sets out to fight the ban and bring sushi back to the region. This was also released on Switch, but it's worth noting that it came out here as well. Next up is Captain Toad Treasure Tracker, which was also released on Switch.
Of course, it'll have touch controls and 3D visuals. That way it looks like
this is an update to the Wii U game. Both this and the Switch version have new stages based on Super Mario Odyssey environments, and can use the newer Mario Odyssey amiibos. If you've never played the original game, it includes over 60 levels based on the isometric puzzle levels from Super Mario 3D Land, where you move Toad or Toadette around, manipulating the stages and camera to collect gems and reach the star.
Find secret paths, mad treasure, and true adventure.
Following that is WarioWare Gold. We haven't had a real WarioWare release in almost 10 years, so Gold is a welcome addition to the series. If you haven't played a WarioWare game before, it has challenges made up of a series of micro games that are each 5 seconds long, and force you to use the system's hardware and controls in unique ways. WarioWare Gold contains over 300 micro games made up of new ones and stuff from every previous entry in the series. The game has a new story mode which revolves around Wario setting up a tournament and charging an entrance fee so he can run away with all the money. Next up is Yokai Watch Blasters, which was released in 2 versions, the Red Cat Corps and White Dog Squad versions. This is a top-down action RPG-like spin-off of Yokai Watch 2, where you have a party of 4 yokai and control them to take down enemies. It's based on the Blasters minigame from the original games, but is much more involved. In the game, you play through a number of missions. Mission types include story, patrol, and boss rush. The game has over 400 yokai you can befriend, and you can get special yokai by using the saved data from the different versions of Yokai Watch 2. The different versions of the game include 10 unique yokai and 3 unique missions, as well as some other minor changes. The game also features 4-player co-op online play. Lastly, a free DLC add-on was released, Yokai Watch Blasters Moon Rabbit Crew. And that brings us to a game I was happy came out, Jake Hunter Ghost of the Dusk. Jake Hunter is one of the earliest console visual novel series, starting out on the Famicom and seeing 20 console releases and 20 unique mobile stories since. The game has you playing the detective Jake Hunter and solving cases by moving to different areas, inspecting them and questioning people. We only had 2 releases over here. The first DS game we got was a remake of the first 3 games in the series, and the second DS game included those 3 games again, plus remakes of games 4, 5, and 13. This new game is the 18th console game in the series, but it also includes the last 4 mobile games released too. While that seems like a huge gap, the cases are mostly separate stories, so you shouldn't be lost. The main story in Ghost of the Dusk involves Jake coming across a supposedly haunted house where a corpse is found. Solving the murder only leads to more trouble as the case gets bigger. If you're into mystery stories and visual novels with light adventure game elements, it's definitely worth checking out. And the last notable physical game of the year is Luigi's Mansion. This is an update of the GameCube launch title, which was an incredible mix of atmosphere and the unique Mario series charm at the time. If you've never played the original or its 3DS sequel, you play Luigi armed with a flashlight and ghost-sucking vacuum exploring a large mansion. You stun ghosts with the flashlight and then suck them up before they can attack you. The update doesn't add any new content from what I've heard, but it does add in motion controls and has had the graphics completely redone to better suit the 3DS and its 3D capabilities. Overall, it's a cool game worth checking out if you've never played the original, but with no new content, I didn't really feel the need to get a portable version of it. And those are all the physical notable games for the year. I'm going to go into the digital stuff now, since there wasn't that much. I had to kind of, look through the bottom of the barrel for this stuff. Some of it's good, some of it may not be, it's just kind of interesting. So, yeah, let's get started with that stuff. First up is Machine Knight, one of the many Kemco published 16-bit style turn-based fantasy JRPG mobile ports. Machine Knight stars Fran, who travels to another world to find the energy needed to save his dying planet, and runs into trouble there. He's joined in his journey by 2 other heroines, making up the 3-character party. There's also a class system with character customization. Honestly, Kemco puts out so many of these, I don't know if this is good or not, but it seemed interesting and it's the only console version of this game that I know of. Following that is Witchin' Hero 3, the 3rd game in the retro-style action RPG series where you control the hero and little hero to take out enemies while protecting and helping your witch companion to survive and rescue the captured little witch. This looks like a fun little action game in the vein of like 30 Second Hero. I never played any of the series, but I'm definitely interested in checking them out after reading this. Then is Waku Waku Sweets Happy Sweets Making. This also launched on the Switch, but figured I'd mention it here too. It's a baking game similar to Cooking Mama that's not quite as good as those games, but if you love that series and want something else, this may interest you. And Bloodstained Curse of the Moon, which isn't an exclusive by any means, it launched everywhere, but given its strong NES roots, I felt like it was worth mentioning here. This is an 8-bit Castlevania 3 throwback and prequel to the Castlevania spiritual successor Bloodstained. Next up is Dillon's Dead Heat Breakers. This is the game that Nintendo heavily pushed in one of their Nintendo Directs earlier this year. Apparently it's the newest game in a series that has had a couple entries before. I've never heard of the previous entries, and apparently at least one of those came out over here, so that might be something worth looking into. The game is a mix of 3D exploration and tower defense strategy. You do some exploration to gather resources, complete objectives, and win races. And then when you've saved up enough, you upgrade your towers and use different strategies to take out waves of incoming enemies. There's 30 enemies that have different abilities that you have to learn to defend against, and some monsters transform into vehicles that you race against. Honestly, I don't know too much about it, but given the press Nintendo gave it, it may be the best digital-only game of the year, so definitely something worth knowing about. Following that is Dragon Lapis, another Kemco-published retro-style JRPG and port of a mobile game. This one takes place in a world where 2 warring dragons were sealed away by a hero, but have now been freed. As the descendant of that hero, you team up with one of them to stop the other. The game features turn-based combat and a class system, but stat progression is done by collecting growth plate items, which are connected to jobs. After that is Sanrio Characters Picross. Picross is always fun, so if you love Sanrio characters like Hello Kitty or Batsmaru or any of those, this is worth checking out. After that is Cube Creator DX. This is a strange case because it's an American developed game that was released in Japan through Arc System Works both physically and digitally almost a year ago, but we're only now just getting it, and only as a digital version. The game was developed by Big John Games in Minnesota and is a 3DS take on Minecraft. It's a voxel art creative game with survival, creator, and stage building modes. It also supports 4-player local or online play, and lets you share your content or download user-created stages. Next up is Japanese Railsim 3D, 5 types of trains. Honestly, I don't know if these games are any good, but they keep putting them out on 3DS, so someone must really dig them. They seem interesting. This time you drive 5 different types of passenger trains along the Omi Railway, Japan's oldest private railway still in use. Yeah, so that's it for 2018 notable releases. 2019 has some stuff coming up too, like another Mario and Luigi update, Yokai Watch 3 is coming out, and Kirby's Epic Yarn is coming out. So still some stuff coming out next year. The system's not quite gone yet, so we'll see what else comes out then. Thanks for checking out this retrospective, and check out my other ones, subscribe. I'll see you guys next time. Bye.